Hey everyone, welcome to another top 10 list. This week's top 10 list is going to start a new series, and the new series is going to be about grades and grading notes and how to determine the grade on notes. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a few notes of each grade and we're going to compare them to each other to see what gave them the grade that they are, and this will help you guys also understand how grading works. This week is going to be the top 10 lowest graded notes I have. That way we can get an idea of what makes these notes the lowest grade, what things you should look out for. I'm going to continue this series off after the 4th of July. I've got a special video for the 4th of July. And then after that, we will get into the higher grades. I'm not going to go all the way through the scale because, first and foremost, I don't have enough notes to go through the entire scale. But secondly, some of the notes are extremely difficult to tell the difference on camera and on video. I did move over by the window so I have daylight coming through because that will show the flaws in the notes extremely well. All right, so the lowest grade you can get a note is good 4. A 4 that's labeled good is a very heavily circulated note with numerous problems. It is totally limp with impaired visual appeal. Notes in this grade are commonly seen with pieces missing. I do not have any 4s. Next on the scale would be a 6, good 6. This note is very worn with serious splits, fraying, and margins and damage. Next would be a very good 8, and that's where we're actually going to start. Very good 8. This note is heavily circulated but is intact. Some small pieces may be missing. Soiling, light stains, or splits are common for this grade. The note is limp. All right. This is what my brain says whenever I see an 8. This is just my visual reference for an 8. This particular one is my lazy deuce. What I look for to determine an 8 is, first of all, is the note there? Yes. It doesn't have any major pieces missing or anything like that, so I'm not too worried about that. But what I look at is the picture itself. Do you see how grainy the picture is? The reason why the picture is that grainy is because of all of the wrinkling on the page. Okay, there is so many creases and wrinkles and folds in the page that it actually takes away from the actual printing. It is no longer a sharp picture to look at. So as soon as I see that to me screams 8, because now there is enough wear on this note to to actually damage the printing process. Now, this particular note also got what's called a net grading, and let me just double check on here so I can read all the different things. For a net grade, NET, the NET designation indicates that a note has problems that are more severe than can be reflected by the note's assigned numeric grade. If a note receives the net designation, the severe problem or problems will be listed. The grade portion of the PMG guarantee does not apply to notes given a net designation by PMG. Notes with the net designation are guaranteed to be genuine only. Okay, so with this having the net designation, if I look on the back, you can see it says repaired and overprint has been redrawn. Now, because of that, they give it an 8 grade and they put net on there. So with that net designation, that gives you room to start negotiating the price, because the note isn't truly an 8, but if it wasn't for those things, the note would be an 8. That's the best way to think about it. So once again, this one is an 8, and what we're looking at is, like I said, I look at the picture and see how there are portions of the picture that are missing. The whole thing looks blurred out because of the handling on the note. The next note I got also falls in the same category. It's also graded an 8 and a net. This one's a little older, 1759. Now, once again, you can't even make out what the picture's supposed to be over here because of the handling on this particular note. Now, I'm surprised that this one was given an 8, because if you look at the border is just trashed. You can see severe rounding on the corners. Looking at the back, it's been repaired and reattached, pieces added. To me, if there was ever an example of a 6 or a 4, this would be it. You can see the piece that was added right there. But yeah, this note, when you shine light on it, it's almost impossible to distinguish what it is. So yeah, they were really nice giving this one an 8 net. But yeah, I would say this one was definitely overgraded. I got it for what it is. But once again, comparing this note and this note, you can see what I was talking about with the picture here, how this is blurred out, and how this picture, because of all the creases, is also blurred out. The next note I got, also an older note from the 1700s. This particular one is 1776, so it's about 20 years newer. And this one they gave a 10 to. Now with 10 on the grades, let me just go through 10 here. 10 they call very good, a solid whole note with lots of circulation. The note is too limp and has a number of minor problems. Okay, so that's a 10. You can still see that there are so many creases in here you can't really make out the picture. I see that there's a piece missing here. You can see the major creasing here. Some kind of stain here. It looks like a portion of the note is folded over on itself. The corner isn't rounded, but you can tell it's one step away from being rounded. Looking at the back of this one, once again, you can see I think this one was definitely a little bit high on the grade. Once again, I would think 6, maybe 8 on this particular note, but I think they're giving it a little bit of a bump because of how old it is. So I think they were just being kind with that particular note. So that is the 8s and the 10s that I have graded. The next step up is a 15, which would be choice fine. 12, there is a 12, but I don't have any 12, so I've got nothing to show for 12. 12 would be fine. The evidence of circulation is considerable with rounded corners, margin splits, and other issues. The note must be whole with solid paper. That's a 12. The next example I have would be choice 15. Choice 15, or choice fine 15, this note may look like a very fine note, but upon closer examination, it is found to have too many folds or too much circulation to warrant a very fine grade. All right, so my first 15 I'm bringing out is my 1886 silver certificate. Now, you can see with the sunlight all of the wrinkles. You've got a ton of wrinkles in this paper, just like you would with the 8. But if I look at the edges of the page, of the note, it's all here. So the note is all here. That's a good thing. And when you start to see the image of this particular portrait, it's not as washed out as the 8 was. I mean, yes, there is more creases than can be counted. This note has been severely handled. This one also was given a net designation. And the net designation, we'll check that out on the back, is piece added, seal faded. And if on this particular note right here, you can see that they actually added a piece to cover a hole. If you look on this side, you can see that the hole was right here and they patched it. And of course the seal has been some bleached out. That's the reason for the net designation. But if we ignore that, the rest of the note is a 15. And like I said, the best way to look at it is when you look at the paper quality itself, it's definitely been handled. It does have some staining and some dirt on this side, but when you get to the picture, not quite as destroyed as that 8 that I started with, that Lazy Deuce. Look at these side by side, and maybe that's the best way to see it. One is definitely massacred, and the other one not as much. So you can see a difference there. All right. Another example of a 15, here is a 15, and this one does not have the net designation. Now, once again, you can see the severe folds through the center of this note. You can see it actually does have a hole. The hole was burned into the note, believe it or not, this tiny little hole here. But it does have the full corner, which is interesting. Even with that hole, the note was not given a net grade, which is, like I said, pretty interesting. The paper is yellowed. You can see the major crease here. You can see a crease in this side. Looking at the back, a lot more of that comes into play because it has the white background. Once again, though, when you're looking at the picture itself, the picture is still fairly clear. It doesn't have a grainy look to it. And that, like I said, that's my number one thing when it comes to looking at notes. If it has that grainy look, now you're talking an 8. This one has wrinkles, has folds, but it doesn't have the graininess. That's why this one goes up to a 15. Another example of a 15, Here is the public error that I've got, 1907 public error. Once again, you can see with the sunlight hitting this note, major creases throughout. You can see staining on the note, but the note is intact. The whole note is here. It's not missing anything. There aren't any major problems. The biggest problem here is this little bit of ink, and they didn't even note it on there. But once again, looking at the back, you can see with the white border, now you can really see the number of folds. There are more folds than you can count on here. But once again, when you look at the image, you can make out the image. The image is not grainy, and that to me is the difference. So, hopefully that helps you guys distinguish those 15s from those 8s and 10s. Let's see. The next note I'm showing, what would that, technically I think I've shown, what, 6? Yeah, okay. So this would be number 4 as far as the notes go, but once again, it's just another 15. And all we're doing is we're looking at notes that are officially graded at 15 and trying to determine what makes them a 15. Once again, here's another note. You can see this note is whole. It's not torn. It's not missing any pieces. There's nothing missing with the note. In the sunlight, you can certainly see all of the folds. You can certainly see all the creases. But when you look at the picture, yeah, it's creased, but you don't have the grainy look. That's what I look for, the grainy look. Checking the back, once again, on the back, you do have a little bit of white, so you can see in the sunlight, you can see all the folds so much more. You can see the staining on the note, so the note is dirty. I say staining, but it's pretty much just dirt. So another example of a 15. Once again, seeing these over and over again, you can see differences from one note to the other, but generally speaking, you're starting to get an idea of what a 15 looks like. Number 3, this is another 15, 1896 $5 silver certificate. And once again, looking close at this note, you don't have the graininess of the picture. Now, this one was real close, in my opinion, to having a grainy picture. And let me find that Lazy Deuce again, and we will hold these side by side so you can determine for yourself. There's the graininess of the Lazy Deuce. That's an 8. And, well, no, side by side, I guess you can tell that the one on the left is much better. Yeah. Side by side, that's the best way to do it. That's also part of the importance of having graded notes and having a variety of graded notes, because then you can actually make the comparisons yourself. Now, this one, you can see, has numerous vertical folds. You can see that those vertical folds did break the image and have broken up the image, but not to the extent to cause it the graininess. You can see the horizontal folds this way as well. Once again, the folds are too numerous to mention. This one does have a notation saying it was repaired, and I think that's where the repair took place, right there on the bottom. Not 100%, but yeah, once again, definitely a 15 when you compare it to an 8. So that's why it's good to have those in there. Number 2, another 15. This one was given a net designation. What is the reasoning for the net designation? It's because it was stained. And if you look at the back of this note, you can see there is a huge stain here. It is a Confederate $500 bill. And I'm not going to ask what this reddish stain is. I don't think it's blood, because after all the years, if this was blood, it would have a more rusted color. It wouldn't just look like that. So I don't think that was blood. Anyway, this one is a 15 as well. Once again, looking, you can see all kinds of dirt, all kinds of damage, all kinds of folds, but the note is whole. Now, some of you will say, well, it's trimmed funny. Well, no, these were hand cut. So most of them are trimmed funny. But yeah, holding it in the sunlight, you can see all the different creases, all the different folds in the note. There are quite a few. You can see them more on the back of this note because there's nothing written on the back of this note. You can see the stain. Definitely a well-handled note. But once again, when you zoom into the picture, as grainy as that picture looks, well, that's actually that's pretty grainy. This one I may have lucked out with the 15 grade, because that's that particular portion looks grainy. But when you look up here in the flag, you can still see the very distinct lines to give the shading of the flag. So I guess that's probably how they ended up giving it the grade that they did. And here's the portrait. Once again, the portrait, not really particularly grainy. You can still make out the portrait. So yeah, maybe they did okay with the 15 grade on that one. And finally, the last note that I've got, this one also graded a 15. This one was also graded a net. And we'll take a peek at the back of this one once again. This one says repaired. Don't know where the repair was. I think the repair was right here on the top. Was that it, or was it on the bottom? Maybe it was on the bottom. And by repair, odds are the note was split and they used some type of glue to put it back together. But anyway, since it says net, we ignore that repair wherever the repair is, and we look at the rest of the note. And when you look at the rest of the note, this note is actually in pretty good shape. The edge, a little bit right there maybe, but the rest of the note is sitting pretty good. You can see a major horizontal fold here. It's got vertical folds in it as well. And I'm trying to move it around in the light just to try to make some of those folds show up a little bit better. Because like I said, on camera, some of these can be very difficult to see. And if we look at the back once again, you're going to see, there it is. There's the, that's got to be the repair there, right there. Well, maybe they were, well, I don't know. This one, like I said, they call it 15. When you look at the photo is actually really good. So, yeah, maybe they were a little hard on this particular note. Anyway, that is exploring the notes that I have that are 15 and lower as far as grades go. Hopefully seeing these notes together will embed an image on you so that when you're looking at notes, you're going to see things to look for. At this low in the game, you're mainly looking for that grainy look. That grainy look, that's going to tell you it's an 8. If it's got problems and it doesn't have the grainy look, well, then you may be as high as 15. All right, guys, if you learned anything new this week, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. Love reading all your comments. Look forward to more of these in the future, and I'll see you next week.